The UFC defending and undisputed heavyweight champion of the world, Francis Ngannou, faced an unusually tough and inspiring journey on his path to championship glory. Just until about 10 years ago, Ngannou was still a raw product with lots of talent and a burning desire and passion to be boxing world champion. Although the biggest dream in his environment was to become a truck driver and better yet, a truck owner, this didn't deter Ngannou's dream and vision. According to Ngannou, in Cameroon, kids have many problems. They think everything is lost before they are born. It seems like they are not allowed to dream. They are not allowed to be ambitious. They just accept being the victim of their life. Born in Bedi, Cameroon, Ngannou's parents divorced when he was 6, forcing Ngannou to move from house to house, from village to city, from relative to relative. Being a notorious street fighter, Ngannou's father was not one who he emulated. However, Ngannou made lemon out of his lemonade by taking inspiration to be a fighter from his father's proficiency as a street fighter. "My father was the example for me of what not to do," Ngannou says of his father, Emmanuel Fosso, who died in 2001. "I think that was the best thing that ever happened to me because if my dad wasn't what he was, I could have been what he was, but I still love him a lot." At the age of 10 and having 4 siblings and a single mother to feed, it became time for Ngannou to become a man. Ngannou started working in a sand quarry in Bedi since that was the only source of income available to him at the time. In an interview with Joe Rogan, Ngannou said, "I hated this place growing up. I hated the sand mine, everything. I hated my life. Sometimes you'd argue with a rat in the trash. It really hurts me to remember everything where I came from." Ngannou worked in the sand mines most of the time he was supposed to use to acquire formal education. All for what? Just a meager amount of $1.90 per day. He changed schools often and always seemed to leave one for another as soon as he had made a new friend. He hardly brought lunch or had a book or pen. Poverty was a physical presence in his life. His schooling was constantly interrupted by his deprivation. There was never enough money for supplies or the government fees. So working in the mine allowed him to earn money and avoid the shame that followed him around at school. He quit school at 17 and began to plot his departure from the village. His pay rose to $2.50 per day and he saved as much as he could. Pursuing his childhood dream to be a world boxing champion just like Mike Tyson, he began boxing at the local gym where the training and surroundings were rudimentary. The work in the mine seemed to multiply his muscles and he shot up to 6'4", but whenever he voiced his plan of leaving Cameroon to go to America and become the heavyweight champion of the world, nobody believed. After training for a year, Ngannou stopped training due to an illness. He did various odd jobs to make ends meet until at the age of 26, he decided to head to Paris, France to pursue professional boxing. How then was he going to find his way to Paris? Taking a flight for sure wasn't on his list. Ngannou's first step in leaving Cameroon for Europe saw him travel north to Nigeria, an unproblematic trip as the open border between the two countries mean he didn't need a visa. The Nigeria trip was really fast. Nigeria is the next country to Cameroon, so we don't even need a visa to go in Cameroon, so in Nigeria we are free, he said on the Joe Rogan Experience. Although traveling to Nigeria from Cameroon was easy, problems started to occur for Ngannou when going to Niger. He required a visa to enter the deserted country and was forced to deal with bribes from police and border control officers. There, we started to be illegal because from us to get there we need a visa, but from there we didn't have a visa, he continued. So we had to deal with the police, border protection officers. You get caught, they ask you for money, like a bribe. You don't want to give all your money, you need that to survive. Ngannou went to extreme lengths to protect his money from police and border protection, wrapping it in paper and swallowing it to avoid giving it away. From Niger, the next step in his trip was Algeria. When crossing from north of Niger into Algeria, Ngannou would be one of the 25 people crammed into the back of a pickup truck to cross the Sahara Desert. The temperatures were as high as 65 degrees Celsius in the daytime, but he eventually made it across and was forced to drink water that had dead animals in it due to being severely parched. From Niger, Ngannou was headed to Algeria. However, his identity as a Cameroonian meant he didn't have free entrance into Algeria. So he faked his identity. Since Mali had previously helped Algeria at war, he had to get his hands on a Malian passport. All Malian citizens in Algeria, they don't need a visa. They are free as long as they have ID. We are all from Mali, but we have to prove it, he said. He made it across to Morocco, the next country of his journey. Once in Morocco, Ngannou had to travel to one of two Spanish islands. This was one of the most important steps in his journey as he could seek asylum when reaching Ceuta or Melilla. Morocco is a nightmare for immigration. It's the hell country for immigration because it is the country closer to Europe, he said. He was forced to live in Moroccan forests and eat food from bins whilst preparing for each cross of the border, cutting his stomach open on barbed wire in his first attempt. Ngannou was forced to go to a hospital for his injuries but was dumped off in the desert by police after being treated for his injuries. Determined to get across after several failed attempts, Ngannou began to cross the border by the water. Ngannou was the self-appointed captain of the raft, a flimsy thing built for 4, maybe 5, and the fact that he could not swim was not a deterrent. Throughout his mission to reach Spain by sea, Ngannou got pulled out of the water at least 6 times and either locked in Moroccan prisons or thrown back into the middle of the Sahara. When he finally did reach the promised land of Europe, there was yet another roadblock. He was jailed for illegally crossing the Morocco-Spain border by sea. After his release 2 months later, Ngannou fled to France. I was homeless then, but at that moment, it wasn't difficult for me anymore. You might think being homeless in Paris in the fall when it's cold was not great, but the enthusiasm that I had at that time, beyond everything, I was happy to be in the land of opportunity. Even though I was sleeping in parking lots and I didn't have food or money, I was just free. Compared to where I was in Morocco, a parking lot was like a 5-star hotel, he recalled. To make ends meet, Ngannou worked at the homeless shelter Le Shorba, where his job was to chop vegetables. It was here that his life finally took a turn for the better when the director of the Le Shorba Foundation introduced him to Didier Carmon, who ran a boxing training center in Paris. Although Ngannou trained and had some boxing bouts, it seemed like the long route. He was advised that as he needed to make money fast, MMA would be the better option. They said, if you need the faster road to fame and fortune, you have to do MMA. Then I'm like, what's MMA? What's mixed martial arts? I didn't know UFC at the time, I didn't know what was UFC. In November 2013, roughly 3 months after beginning his MMA training, Ngannou made his debut and registered a first-round win via submission. He received an amount of 2,000 euros, something which he treasures today. By April 2014, the Predator won his first heavyweight tournament, and in 2015, he was on the radar of the UFC with whom he penned a contract. Ngannou went on to amass a 6-fight win streak, all by finishes, earning him a shot against Stipe Miocic for the heavyweight title. At this point, Ngannou had little experience in the cage as he mostly had quick finishes over his opponents. Just about 2 months after scoring that out-of-this-world knockout against Alistair Overeem, everyone expected him to totally demolish Stipe. Unfortunately for him, Stipe proved why he's unanimously called the heavyweight GOAT. Applying both skill and experience, Stipe defeated Ngannou by a 50-45 decision. In that fight, given his renowned knockout power, Ngannou came in even more menacingly, looking to just land a deadly blow to end the fight. However, it takes more than will, talent, and genetics to become a champion. Still shook from how the fight went, Ngannou lost a unanimous decision to Derek Lewis in his next fight, in what most would call the most boring heavyweight fight in UFC history. This was due to both fighters' lack of willingness to engage. Perhaps Ngannou didn't want to make the same mistakes in the fight. Taking the defeat in his stride, Ngannou worked harder to come back stronger, and after 3 long years, he finally had a shot at redemption. During this comeback, he knocked out Curtis Blades, Cain Velasquez, Junior Dos Santos, and Jairzinho Rozenstruik, all under 3 minutes combined. This time, Ngannou would show why he is the all-conquering beast by knocking out Miocic in the second round of the rematch, thus fulfilling his boyhood dream. He showed immense improvements in his skill. He even went on to out-wrestle Stipe Miocic in what was a very dominating performance. Just about 52 seconds into the second round, he knocked Stipe out in what would be one of the best knockouts of the year. He hasn't forgotten his roots either. Ngannou has now gone on to create the Francis Ngannou Foundation, a charity that offers people in his village the chance to achieve their dreams in the same way he has. He has built the first official gym in his hometown, Beatty, and hopes to open many more across Africa. The Francis Ngannou Foundation has been set up back in his homeland, providing young people with the facilities and opportunities he was starved of when he was young. He even gets his hands dirty by helping out at the same sand quarry from time to time. Francis Ngannou has achieved a dream that forever looked unlikely. He continues to write his own story, and it remains to be seen what the next chapter on this incredible fairy tale will look like.